It was 3:17 a.m. when they smashed through my front gate. No warning, no knock, nothing. Just the deafening roar of a lifted truck plowing through my custom cedar and iron ranch gate like it was made of cardboard. My heart was pounding in my chest, the dogs were barking like mad, and I bolted upright in bed, wide-eyed. For a second, I thought it was some kind of nightmare, but the sound of the truck's engine and the screech of the gate made it clear this was no dream. It was real, and I had to act. I threw on my boots and scrambled outside in nothing but my boxers, the adrenaline already kicking in. And that's when I saw them, 4 people, all wearing yellow safety vests with the letters CHO Enforcement duct taped across the front. They weren't even trying to hide. One had a clipboard in hand, like she was about to start an inspection, and another one, a big guy with a shaved head, was holding a crowbar. A crowbar. They stomped onto my property like they owned the place, walking right past the garden gate and my old wooden swing that I built for my niece. They didn't even flinch when they saw me. No guilt, no hesitation, just a bunch of people on a mission. And that mission was to take over my ranch. I could feel my blood boiling as they marched straight toward the barn, where I kept my tools, gear, and the 1965 Mustang I'd been restoring for 4 years. I was still trying to process what was happening when I pulled out my phone and called the sheriff. This wasn't just some neighborly dispute, it was a crime. A criminal act. My barn, my tools, my Mustang, all of it was being violat. But this madness didn't start here. No, it started with a letter. Just a small white envelope that showed up in my mailbox about 3 months ago, tucked between all the junk mail. I was living a pretty peaceful life on my 12-acre ranch in the middle of Red River County, Texas, and frankly, I thought I was out of reach of all the drama happening around me. My name's Jack Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, a former military guy, and I work the land my granddad left me. The whole place is quiet. Deer at dawn, cicadas at night, and I'm surrounded by land that's been in my family for generations. But then came the new development down the road, Red River Trails. A small suburban community of shiny, cookie-cutter houses with grave white NYL siding, fake shutters, and American flags pre-installed on every porch. It looked like a postcard suburb dropped in the middle of the wild, and they had their own HOA, which, honestly, shouldn't have mattered to me. But things took a turn fast. The first letter was from the Red River Trails Homeowners Association, addressed to me, Jack Mitchell, property owner of parcel Darkshire 22807. It started off friendly enough, talking about maintaining certain aesthetic standards for the neighborhood. That's when things got weird. They listed violations on my property: unapproved fencing, unpermitted livestock, cybal rust on a vehicle. They were talking about my Mustang, the one under a tarp in my barn. And the kicker? They claimed my mailbox wasn't up to code. I laughed out loud. I didn't live in their neighborhood. I wasn't even in the same zip code. My ranch had been there long before they started building their homes. So, I ignored the letter. Thought that was the end of it. But 2 weeks later, I got another one. This time with a DULA 200 non-compliance fee stapled to it. A fine for violating their so-called standards. That's when I drove over to their office, a small trailer near the model homes. Fake flowers out front, a flagpole. It looked like something from a bad movie. I went in and asked to speak to the person in charge. That's when I met Deborah Lancaster. She was the president of the HOA. Late 50s, dressed in a pantsuit that looked absurd in the Texas heat. She had the kind of smile that made you wonder if your wallet was still in your pocket. I explained my situation calmly. Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but I don't fall under your HOA jurisdiction. She didn't blink. Oh, but you do, she said, tapping her red nails on her clipboard. The new development includes a shared boundary clause. Anything within a 1-mile radius qualifies as a contributing property to the neighborhood's overall aesthetic. I was baffled. What the hell are CCRs? I asked, not even sure what that meant. She didn't even explain, just waved it off, and said, it's in the supplemental CCRs. You should read them. At this point, I had had enough. I don't live in your neighborhood. I never signed anything. You don't have authority over my land. She smiled, a tight, rehearsed smile, and said, well, we'll see about that. And that was the beginning of it all. First, it was a drone. A drone buzzing over my property every other day, taking pictures. I caught it on camera and brought the footage to the sheriff's office, but they shrugged it off. Then came the notices on my fence posts. 5 in 2 weeks. Each one more ridiculous than the last. At first, I thought it was just some bored people with too much time on their hands. People who'd never had to dig post holes, fix a carburetor, or chase down a loose steer. They didn't understand ranch life. They were used to trimmed hedges and Amazon deliveries. So, I tried kindness. I invited a few Red River Trails folks to a community cookout at my place. Smoked ribs, corn on the cob, sweet tea, and I even let the kids feed the goats. They seemed to have a good time. Things quieted down for a bit, until I put up a sign. It wasn't anything fancy, just a wooden sign near my gate that read, "Private Ranch. No HOA jurisdiction. Enter at own risk." I thought it was funny, a little dig at the ridiculousness of it all. Apparently, Deborah didn't think it was so funny. 3 days later, I got another letter. This time, they were accusing me of defamation. They said I was misrepresenting the nature of the community relationship and intimidating potential buyers. Buyers of what? My land wasn't for sale. That's when I got serious. I sent them a cease and desist letter, had my lawyer friend from the Army draw it up. I thought that would be the end of it. But no, they escalated. They filed a civil suit against me for noncompliance. My lawyer laughed so hard, I thought he'd choke on his gum. The judge tossed it out at the first hearing. It was over, or so I thought. But then came the tire tracks on the edge of my property. Someone had cut my barbed wire fence and let 2 of my goats out. I found them down by the creek, shivering. That's when I put up trail cams. Real good ones. Camouflaged, night vision. And sure enough, one night, I caught someone in a reflective vest walking along the edge of my pasture with a flashlight. I sent the footage to the sheriff. You know what this means, don't you? Deputy Willis said, watching the footage. Looks like someone from the HOA is getting real curious. I tried to stay calm, but I knew I had to do something. I planted sunflowers by the fence, fixed the gate, and even started talking to the neighbors about setting up a watch. I didn't want to fight, I just wanted to be left alone. But then, 3 weeks later, at 3:17 a.m., they came again. This time, they smashed my gate and stormed into my barn. They had no idea the cameras were rolling. I had hidden cameras in the rafters, in the corners of the roof, even one under the bumper of the Mustang. They walked right into the trap. The footage was incredible, but one of them did something incredibly stupid, something that would come back to bite them. But that's where everything changed. The deputies arrived, lights flashing, sirens blaring. They arrested the 4 of them. One of the guys shouted, "This isn't over. You'll regret messing with the HOA." Yeah, real intimidating while stuffed in the back seat of a cruiser. The next day, I took the footage to my lawyer, Dean. "Jack, they just handed you a golden goose," he said. "What you have here isn't just trespassing, it's criminal mischief, attempted property damage. We've got a solid case." And that's when I decided to go big. Dean filed a civil suit for damages, violation of private property rights, harassment, emotional distress. The state started to investigate, and things started to snowball. Then came the visit from a man in a suit, Daniel Pierce, VYCE president of Greenlock Properties, the parent company funding the HOA. He offered me a deal to buy my land. I turned him down. He threatened me, but I wasn't intimidated. The next day, I found all my animals gone. Goats, chickens, even the barn cats. This wasn't just a land dispute anymore. It was war. But I wasn't backing down. I called the sheriff again. We found my animals in a storage facility. The HOA had been behind it all, and they didn't even try to hide it. The investigation picked up speed. And with the final blow of evidence emails from the HOA board discussing their compliance strategy and the fire risk contingency, Deborah Lancaster and the others were done. And here's the thing, sometimes the good guys win. Now, the HOA is gone. Greenlock Properties collapsed. Deborah is serving time, and I got due lost $680,000 in damages. But that's not why I fought. I fought for my land, for my animals, and for the right to stand up to bullies. If you're dealing with an HOA or anyone trying to take what's yours, don't give in. Stand your ground. And when the world pushes, push back harder. Let me know what you think in the comment. Would you have fought back like I did? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Stay strong, stay safe, and never let anyone take what's yours.